Many years ago, Facebook had a thing on Pages called Notes, where you could effectively write blogs to all of your followers, and I wrote blogs often on the RetroBlasting Facebook page. And then one day Facebook decided, we don't need notes anymore, and we're going to delete all of them, so you have X many days to get them before they're gone. So Tim Ward, Melinda, and myself all scrambled in the background and collected up as many of them as we could. And one of them was about Tron. And I figured it might be fun to revisit that blog, word for word, and present it as a video. Now this comes from early 2014. This was about Tron Legacy. I hope you enjoy it. The original 1982 film Tron was a childhood footnote for me. I rented the film in a white Disney clamshell case from Circuit City. Yes, there was once a place called Circuit City, and it once had a movie rental section, beta and VHS. It was... I watched the film in the floor of my parents' den. I remember seeing the light cycles and Sark's digitally gruesome death. After that, my only run-in with Tron was at Showbiz Pizza, where I stared at the glowing blue joystick on the arcade cabinet, but never could figure out how to play that particular game. In 2002, they released the amazing 20th anniversary DVD. I bought it on a hunch, with only those vague memories I outlined above. It was then that I discovered Tron was tragically ahead of its time in 1982. Through a 2002 viewpoint and half a lifetime around computers in those intervening years, I now understood Tron, and it was immensely compelling. The behind-the-scenes story was equally fascinating. Tron was almost experimental art house filmmaking on a blockbuster budget. The story was cutting-edge, the cinematography was bleeding-edge, and the film was instantly one of my most admired.
When they showed us the costumes, I said, you've got to be kidding. Where are the pants? Where are the pants?
I wear this helmet all day long, and it seems to bring peace to me.
In 2010, Disney released Tron Legacy, and I was really excited to see it. With the original director as a consultant and Jeff Bridges and Bruce Boxleitner once again in the film, I felt the story was in good hands. I'd like to stop here for a brief moment and tell you that what I'm about to express is not a retrospective on a film I disliked. What you're hearing is not a complete lament. Tron Legacy is not a hated film in my experience, and the Blu-ray sits in my library alongside the original Tron. In this sequel, a young Sam Flynn is accidentally pulled into the digital world at the long-derelict Flynn's arcade, and finds his aged father, Kevin Flynn, in hiding from Clue, a digitally de-aged Jeff Bridges, and a program developed by Flynn in his own image that has usurped the digital world, because Flynn embraced the ISOs, life forms created spontaneously in the digital dimension. When Sam Flynn arrives, Clue has already enacted genocide on these ISOs, and the young Flynn finds his father protecting the last ISO in existence. Kevin Flynn explains that the ISO's digital DNA could hold the key to cures for diseases and possibly immortality for humanity in the real world. But Clue wants to leave the digital dimension for the real world, something Flynn cannot allow. Seeing this film in IMAX 3D was one of the most visually stunning experiences I've had as a moviegoer. I love the production design, seeing and hearing the light cycles and the flying discs again on screen, and the inclusion of so many 1980s tropes and references to the original film. Most notably, Sam Flynn entering Flynn's arcade, perfectly recreated for this sequel, with the rows of vintage arcade games blinking to life while the jukebox blares Journey's Separate Ways. However, there were two areas of the film that left me hollow. Tron Legacy, as much as it was a triumphant return of an underdog sci-fi film, was also a lost opportunity to really slam Tron back into the popular consciousness. Firstly, the film had a distinctly Buddhist, Zen-like flavor in regard to Kevin Flynn. I'm making no judgment on a religion. I'm simply saying the tone comes out of left field in comparison with the original movie. Also in this film, we can be fairly sure the digital dimension Flynn occupies is a closed one, a programming sandbox. Unlike the original master control that was networked to the worldwide grid, Flynn's experiment takes place on a digital island, one way in, one way out. As such, Clue could not have destroyed all of the ISOs in the digital dimension, because he does not have access to the information superhighway. That made me wonder what function all of the programs in Tron Legacy serve. In the original film, they were programs from out in the world usurped and imprisoned by Master Control. RAM was an actuarial program.
I was an actuarial program. Worked for a big insurance company.
Tron was a security program.
It's a security program itself, actually. It finds anything going on that's not scheduled, it shuts it down.
Many, like RAM, operated outside the confines of ENCOM's server.
It really gives you a great feeling helping folks plan for their future needs.
In Tron Legacy, we see Flynn build this digital world from scratch, and it is not connected to the outside world. So, I'd love to know the purpose of the programs that populate it beyond simply some kind of tech-head version of The Sims. Now we come to the most dishonest and glaring omission in the film. You may have noticed that in my description of the plot, I have not once mentioned the character of Tron as being integral in any way to this story. That's because he isn't. At least, not in any meaningful way. Incidentally, Laura Baines, aka Yori, played by Cindy Morgan in the original movie, is omitted entirely. Tron Legacy is all about Kevin Flynn, plain and simple. Hell, they made sure there are 2 Jeff Bridges in here. It's not that Flynn isn't an interesting character, but I want to see the title character as much as I want to see the other main player. It would be like seeing a sequel to Return of the Jedi that completely focuses on Han Solo and inexplicably Luke Skywalker is nowhere to be seen. Hey, look at that. Michael called it 18 months before it happened.
You were right.
About what?
About everything.
Call me a simple kid, but I like hero characters. I find them just as compelling as the more gray anti-heroes and villains. Superman, Luke Skywalker, Captain America, I love them. So when Tron himself isn't really in Tron Legacy, I'm left feeling a little cold. In the original 1982 film, Tron was the ultimate unstoppable warrior. In Tron Legacy, Tron is hidden in the corrupted guise of Rinzler, and only snaps out of it briefly in the third act to no great effect before literally plummeting out of the movie. That's an injustice to the Tron character.
Tron. He's alive.
Throughout the film, the soldiers of Clue are depicted as these very dangerous Terminator-like sentinels that cannot be stopped by the average fighter. Because Kevin Flynn is a user and can affect the digital dimension in ways programs cannot, he can defend himself somewhat from these warriors, but Sam Flynn and Cora are rather helpless. At one point in a brief flashback, we see Tron defend Flynn's escape from Clue. He seizes a second combat disc and begins going to town on Clue's soldiers, cutting through them like a blowtorch. This tells anyone paying attention that Tron is still the ultimate unstoppable warrior, and it also calls into question how Clue was able to subdue Tron at all. I pretty much knew Rinzler was Tron right from the off, but I wasn't annoyed until his offhanded death late in the third act. Tron was never allowed to do anything. He was like Obi-Wan Kenobi in The Phantom Menace, criminally underused. It would have been perfectly fine to reserve Tron's resurrection late into the third act as long as there's a payoff for the audience. Here's what I would have done. In the third act, as they race for the portal, Clue's entire army is on Flynn's heels. Tron then snaps out of the Rinzler persona with help from Flynn, as in the actual film. But Sam and Cora are convinced all is lost as they are outnumbered and will be caught. Tron turns to them and tells them he will hold Clue's army at bay and buy them time. He pulls his 2 combat discs and turns his back on his friends to face the oncoming forces.
Go.
He yells in a symmetry to the flashback from Flynn's first escape from Clue. Sam protests, but Kevin pulls his son away to run for the portal tower. Sam insists they're leaving Tron to die, but Kevin says, "You don't know Tron." As Clue's army comes into view, Tron readies his stance for the final stand. Clue, hovering above his army in one of the attack craft, scoffs at Tron, yelling, "You've forgotten your place, program." But Tron replies, "You've forgotten who I am, Clue. I fight for the users." And then Tron's discs activate, which makes Clue's lieutenants hesitate. Clue never breaks Tron's stare from across the ranks, saying, "Then you have chosen de-resolution. Goodbye, Tron." Clue's army charges in like a tidal wave, but they might as well have broken against a massive reef. Tron wades into them with deadly precision, both discs cutting, slashing, flying, and returning. He dodges and turns the enemy's own weapons against them, allowing their own projectiles to destroy each other. Clue's soldiers are dropping like flies in a cloud of D-Res artifacts over Tron's battlefield. Nothing is slowing Tron down. Nothing. Clue's officers are pointing out that Tron is not stopping, and Clue responds, "That's true, but he's effectively surrounded and cannot help Flynn. Get us to the portal now." Just as Tron gets within reach of Clue's craft, it lifts away and more soldiers fill the gap. Tron is furious, but as Clue's craft departs, Tron is surrounded by an army 20 ranks deep on all sides. Clue then arrives at the portal, and Tron Legacy would play as normal. Tron would make it to the entrance just as Flynn sacrifices himself to destroy Clue. Both Sam and Tron, on opposite sides of the energy blast, one looking from the digital world toward his friend, the other looking from the gate to the real world toward his father, both horrified that they cannot help Kevin Flynn. The movie would then end as normal. That's the sequel to Tron I wanted to see. Tron Legacy was almost a great movie. Maybe if Disney makes a third installment, we'll finally see Tron get the return he deserves.
Wouldn't that be something?
They didn't. And we didn't.